Hello everyone! Today we're going to be talking about cryptids. To be more specific, this is the start of a series I'm making called A to Z Cryptids. And when I say A to Z, I mean that by US states, not cryptids in alphabetical order. When I started thinking of possible topics for more videos, I thought of what I could cover that I was interested in. I love spooky things and mysteries, so of course I was thinking of cryptids like Bigfoot being a possibility. And then I thought about how, I know some cryptids, mostly the big name ones, and there's plenty of internet content covering the topic of just one cryptid at a time. But then I thought, it would be interesting to talk about where we can find some of these cryptids because I know there are sightings of the same kind in multiple places across the US. So I decided to dive into research about each state's most popular cryptids and creatures, which is also fun to learn more about local legends than just the widely known cryptids. Most of these I had never heard of before, and some are things I've heard of in passing when watching or listening to content in the same vein, but I hadn't heard much about them. And I really love spooky old, like folk tale stories. They're just super fun. As a heads up, some of these will be repeated in this series, like Bigfoot. That dude's freaking everywhere, I swear. So I will not go in depth with each creature by what it is or what they look like if they pop up more than once. I'll just summarize about them briefly. Secondly, I'm going to skip over a couple of creatures that popped up in my research. Some of them just sounded like bigger versions of regular animals that some people had seen. So if you know way more about this subject than I do, please don't be too upset about any small things that are missing. There was literally one article about big rabbits, and I was there for the spooky reading. Lastly, I will cover a collection of states per video, starting with our A's, of course. Otherwise, these videos will be extremely long. This video alone was already way longer than I was expecting it to be. I planned on taking on the states one letter at a time in hopes of being manageable lengths of video, and let's just say I'm glad I planned on taking this on one piece at a time. This is still really cool though, and I hope you enjoy the content. Today's video will cover the cryptids and creatures sighted in Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, and Arkansas. One last thing I'd like to say before we get started is sorry for how I'm about to mispronounce many of these cryptid names. Some of these will probably be butchered so hard. Sorry. Okay, so let's get started. The first state to cover, of course, is Alabama. There are a number of local creatures to cover for this state, and we will start with the Atipa tacoba, or man-eater, a giant creature that has preyed on humans. This creature is found in a number of Native American tribes' legends, and depending on which tribe you hear of it from, its appearance varies from bear-like to a giant mountain lion to Alabama's version, which looks more like an elephant or mammoth. Personally, not down with the idea of being torn apart and eaten by a big elephant. Just, ugh. Next up is the Atosi, which are described as little folk. I couldn't find much about these guys, but they kind of just sound like Alabama's version of gnomes, as far as I can tell. Two, they just kind of hang out and aren't malicious at all. Next is the Chokfi. This is a trickster rabbit that is in the Choctaw tribe tales. It's usually mentioned in stories for children, and this rabbit is prone to trickery and pranks, but doesn't hurt anyone either. I guess kind of like Peter Rabbit, huh? Next, we have the Coosa River monster. This has been a creature seen in the Coosa River since the 1800s. It has been described as a serpent-like creature with the head of a horse and black scaly skin. It has also been said to have a white underbelly like seals and is somewhere around 20 feet in length. Once dams started being made in the river, more sightings were reported, as well as stories about missing livestock. The next one we have is a fun one, the Crichton leprechaun. This is actually a really new cryptid, if you'd even like to call it that. On March 14th, 2006, in the Crichton neighborhood of Mobile, there was a reported sighting of a leprechaun in a tree.
To me, it look like a leprechaun to me. All you gotta do is look up in the tree. Who else seen the leprechaun? Say yeah! Yeah!
The local news station arrived to take in accounts from witnesses, one of which showed this picture of a crudely drawn sketch of what they had seen. Some witnesses said they saw a leprechaun, others said it could have been a neighborhood crackhead, and to be fair, with how close it was to St. Patrick's Day, it probably really was just some person in a costume. The video clip from the news was posted online 3 days later on St. Patrick's Day. This picture and the story went viral in the early days of YouTube, and the video sits comfortably today at 28 million views. I still see the memes that came from this story occasionally, and I think it's just really, really funny to see something like that in this sort of context. I wasn't expecting to find something like this in articles. I was expecting more serious things, but I guess long term, you shouldn't expect them all to be taken so seriously all the time. A lot of them are just considered fun folk tale stories for campfire nights, you know? The Downy Booger is up next. This creature is sort of like Alabama's own version of Bigfoot, a big hairy creature that's a cross between a human and an animal. This creature was first spotted in Winston County by some younger boys. It startled their horses and they ran to tell their parents, who didn't believe them. Later, the whole family happened to spot the creature in a tree line. One man reportedly shot the creature and it ran away, but when a posse was formed to look for it, nothing but its blood was ever found. Next, we have Huggin' Molly. Molly is reported to be a huge woman who will run after you at night and grab you in a big tight hug and scream into your ear. This story is usually told to children to keep them from going out at night or to make sure that they get home before dark. Next up after that, we have the Sipsey creature, or the Walker County creature. The Sipsey creature is reported to be a cross between a bear and gorilla, and it has been reported to have attacked people before. One man named Daniel claimed to have been attacked by the creature and was left with some weird scars that resembled acid burns. The White Thing is next. This creature is a more well-known cryptid from Alabama, and stories about it have been going around since the early 1900s. The White Thing is described in a couple different ways, but usually as a 7 to 8 feet tall hairy creature. Some witnesses also describe it to kind of resemble a lion. It is said to be a very fast creature, and though it can stand and walk on 2 legs, it is known to run on all 4s like an animal, which that is terrifying. If I saw it in the dark, I don't know what I would do. Some people say that it sounds like a woman screaming and that it gives off an oppressive stink that smells like dead animals. Next is the Witch of Hines Road. Hines Road is in Gadsden, and it is said that it is haunted by a woman or witch that used to live in the woods around the area. And if you dare to walk down the road at night, she'll come running at you, yelling about how she sold her soul to Satan. So this one just sounds like a ghost story. Fun though. The last cryptid of Alabama is the Wolf Woman of Mobile. This cryptid was sighted in the city of Mobile in the 1970s and is described as a woman's upper body and the lower body of a wolf mixed together. I don't like that it walks on all 4s, but it still has people hands. It's icky. Some people believe that this wolf woman is some type of skinwalker that is half transformed between an animal and human form. This was reported to the police, and because there were so many people claiming to have seen the creature, the case had to be taken seriously. There were sightings for 10 straight days, and then it disappeared and was never seen again. I think it's kind of fun. That one just sounds extra mysterious, you know what I mean? We're finally moving on to our next state, Alaska, which Let me tell you, there were a ton of stories about this state, but I only picked ones that I felt genuinely fit into the feeling of cryptid, of course. The first cryptid we have from this state is the Iliamna Lake Monster, or Illy as some locals might call it, Alaska's own Loch Ness Monster, who has been being spotted since the 1940s. It is reported to be found in Iliamna, which is a lake near a small fishing town. It is described as a large aquatic beast with a big squared head that it uses to ram into boats and is somewhere between 10 and 30 feet in length. Really long or tall creatures seem to be a trend with cryptids. It has also reportedly caused some deaths in the area. The sparse sightings of the creature or the inability to find it may stem from the fact that the lake it resides in is almost exclusively accessible by float planes and then small boats only some times of the year. The next creature is the Kalupalik. First of all, I'd like to say that this creature is the one the art depictions of creeped me out the most so far during my research for this video. It looks like a person started becoming a seal and kept all its limbs in the process, like a person stuck in the middle of their anamorph transformation. It's yucky. It's mostly described as having green slimy skin, long dark hair, and long fingernails with webbed hands, and they have scales and fins. It wears an amutik, which I don't know if I said correctly, but this is an Inuit parka worn by women. It's said that it uses it to carry kidnapped children. It's also reported that it can let out piercing shrieks that paralyzes its victims. It is speculated that she uses the children she kidnaps to maintain her long, flowing hair and her youthful appearance. Or some say that she just eats them. Alaska's next creature is the Bushman, or Tornit, which just sounds like Alaska's version of Bigfoot, honestly. And this guy really seems to be getting around. The Bushman is a super large and hairy half-human creature that roams the wilderness stealing food, using its super strength to knock over trees and throw large boulders. Next is the Amukik. This is another sea monster that is described to be a large, slimy, and leathery shapeshifter that can take on many forms depending on where a person may encounter them. If in the sea, it will attack hunters in their kayaks and drag them below the waves to devour them. If they're on the land, it is said that they can move through the earth as if it were water, that they can swim around their prey so quickly that the ground turns to quicksand and swallows up the victim, or they can take over the bodies of these people and take on their form. The Kushtaka is a creature that usually takes on the form of an otter, but can turn into a human as well. These creatures' behavior differs in stories. Sometimes they're evil little things that trick people into their deaths, and in others, they are friendly and helpful to people, sometimes even saving them from drowning. The next creature is the Adlet. It is a half-human, half-wolf cryptid. It honestly just resembles a werewolf. Bloodthirsty creatures that will attack anything in sight. The last cryptid for Alaska is the Keelot. This creature is said to be a spirit from the underworld and is described as a hairless dog that only has hair on its feet. The hair on its feet masks its tracks in the snow and helps them disappear while they track their own prey, humans. It is said that they eat the dead and are often seen as omens of death. They are said to attack those who travel alone. They can confuse victims just by looking at them, causing them to forget who they are and what they're doing or where they're going. The victim eventually dies from hypothermia. The Keelot simply waits out the death of these people, patient for their feast to come. We're now moving on to our third A state, Arizona. First on my list is a troll. Just a troll. No, not that kind of troll. Yeah, that's it right there. It's interesting to see something found in other folklore just chilling in America. Some people have claimed to see trolls at the Grand Canyon. It has been described to have long white hair and a beard that grows all the way down to its knees. It had no clothes and very long clawed fingers and a thin layer of grayish hair across its whole body. The last reported sighting of this creature is from 2013 at Mogollon Rim. Next, we finally have our first official appearance of the actual Mr. Bigfoot himself. Bigfoot, or Sasquatch, are very large and hairy human-like creatures found across the United States, usually spotted in the forests of the Pacific Northwest. There have been many claimed sightings of Bigfoot, and some people even claim to have evidence of the creature, ranging from photographs and audio recordings to hair samples and iconic casts of huge footprints. Bigfoot is usually described as large and muscular, walking on two legs and covered in very dark brown or black thick hair. Bigfoot's height has been said to be anywhere between 10 to 15 feet and is more human-like in appearance than ape-like. Bigfoot sightings in Arizona are actually very common. During the 1980s, it was believed that Bigfoot lived in Hell Canyon. There is a list of at least 40 sightings of the creature between both Coconino County and Yavapai County. Usually, these reports involve a shrill and deafening scream or howl. Near places Bigfoot is spotted, evidence of the creature, such as broken trees, are found that are believed to mark their territory. Up next, we have the Oswang. This creature originates from the Philippines, but there is believed to be one living in the Apache Death Cave near a town named Two Guns, Arizona. It is a shape-shifting vampiric creature that hisses like a rattlesnake and has a very long proboscis-like tongue. They are very thin and emaciated creatures with gray skin and milky eyes with boils and sores all over their bodies in its monster appearance, though it is often seen in a dog form, but has also been said to be able to flatten itself as thin as a mouse to squeeze under doorways and the tight spaces of its cave dwellings. Despite their appearance, they are very athletic and can run at fast speeds as well as jump up to 15 feet or more as they chase after their prey. That sounds completely awful. It would definitely catch me. I am not a fast runner in the slightest. The Oswang are often said to live out their lives as normal townspeople who appear very introverted, shy, quiet, and elusive. At night is when they transform into various animals, most commonly their dog form. They reportedly enjoy eating animals and human fetuses as well as small children. Another reason to give kids a nighttime curfew. Next up is the Reptoid, spotted only once by a group of bikers in 2014. This creature is said to be around 6 feet tall, super skinny, and walks like a monkey with clawed hands and snake-like eyes. This lizard creature waved at the bikers and made a chittering noise before quickly running away. I do the same exact thing when I have an awkward social interaction, so I can sympathize. The Chupacabra is the last creature on my list for Arizona. The Chupacabra, literally meaning goat sucker, is a cryptid known to drink the blood of livestock to the point of most of them being completely exsanguinated. The Chupacabra is usually described as a creature that is reptilian or alien-like, usually the size of a small bear with rows of spines going from the neck to the base of the tail. While in the United States, it is depicted as being much more dog-like. One of the first reported sightings of the Chupacabra in the States was in Tucson, Arizona. In the middle of the night, two men went to check on their livestock after hearing loud shrieks from their goats. When they went to investigate, they found a strange creature on top of a goat. It screamed at the men and then ran away. Finally, we've made it to Arkansas, the last A state. Now, while I was researching stories about all these cryptids in each state, I was surprised to only find 4 different ones for Arkansas. Now, I didn't include every story about weird creatures or cryptids from every state. This video would end up being way too long, and it's already pretty lengthy. I skipped over anything that just sounded like a big animal or something that just didn't really feel like they fit our mold. But for Arkansas, there were literally only 4 that I could find altogether. The first one we're going to talk about is the White River Monster, also known as Whitey to the locals. Which, same. Sightings of this creature have been occurring since as early as 1915. The most detailed account of the creature comes from a plantation owner in 1937 named Bramlett Bateman. Bateman claimed to have seen the monster in the river and described it as a giant and wide creature at least the length of 3 cars, so somewhere between 40 and 50 feet long. Skin shiny and gray like a seal and spitting water from its blowhole. There were attempts to catch the creature with large nets in the water, but no one was ever successful in doing so, and it was believed that the monster disappeared. The White River monster was spotted again in the 1970s when witnesses claimed to have seen a very long, gray, and horned monster swimming in the waters. At the time, investigators also found 14-inch in length footprints along the bank of the river that each had 3 toes. It is speculated that the creature could have been a stray manatee or elephant seal. But I looked it up. Manatees do not go on land, and elephant seals have 5 fingers on their little fins, not 3. So if these footprints are really connected to the White River monster, it can't be either of those animals. Though no one had discovered what the monster was, people had become so interested in the monster that Arkansas legislators created the White River Monster Refuge, which made it illegal to harass or harm the monster. Which just seems so cool. It's always super exciting to me when people rally behind their local cryptids and are in some ways proud of the stories that surround them. Even though they passed this law, sightings have steadily decreased in the following years. Let's hope this river monster is still out there somewhere, though. Our next cryptid is the Ozark Howler. The Ozark Mountains are said to have many strange sounds coming from them at night, and one speculated source for some of these sounds is the Ozark Howler. The Ozark Howler has a wide description, but the most common is that it is roughly the size of a large bear with a thick body and shaggy hair. It has glowing red eyes and horns and a beard much like a goat's. Though some people claim that this monster looks different, all witnesses agree on the sounds that the creature makes. It has a terrifying scream that sounds like a cross between a woman's scream and a wolf's howl. Stories of this creature date back to campfire stories as late as the early 1800s, and some people believe the creature to be related to a similar cryptid, the Black Dog of Death from Scottish and Irish folklore. It's believed the creature could have followed Scottish and Irish settlers from their countries to the Ozark Mountains when they made their new home in America. Next up is the Fouke monster. This monster is named after a small town in Miller County where it has been seen before. It is reported to be a giant 7-foot-tall creature that stood upright like a human and had bright red eyes. So it's another Bigfoot. In 1971, the Ford family reported to local authorities that they had seen the giant creature on their property. One of them shot at the creature, wounding it, and after that, it charged at them and tried to break into their home through the doors and windows. This reportedly continued for a few hours, and the Ford family was eventually able to escape, where they headed to town for help. Once authorities arrived, there was no monster or blood found around the property, but they did find strange-looking tracks as well as claw-like gouges all over the house's porch. The local newspaper reported on the case the next day, giving the creature its name and sensationalizing the story. It became very popular and eventually inspired a film called The Legend of Bogey Creek. Again, just like the last cryptid, sightings of this creature dwindled in following years. And, I mean, if I was that cryptid, I wouldn't want to hang around somewhere where I got shot anymore either, so I see why I would leave, just saying. The last cryptid for Arkansas is the Goro. The Goro is a creature from an Arkansas Gazette article in 1897. It recounted a tale told by William Miller. Miller claimed that he had heard tale of this hideous monster called the Goro that had been killing local livestock. Miller formed a posse, and they tracked the creature to a cave that was scattered with bones. There they waited for the creature to return, but it ended up catching the group off guard when it emerged from the nearby lake and let out a roar so loud it made the earth tremble. Miller described this creature as being 20 feet long with tusks, webbed feet that ended with claws, and horns along its spine. It had a whip-like tail with a sharp barbed end. In the following fight that commenced, the creature reportedly killed many of the men's horses, uprooted nearby trees, and tore a man's leg clean off his body before they were able to take the creature out with their gunfire. Miller claimed to have sent the creature's body to the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C., but it never showed up. There have been a few other reported sightings of at least similar creatures, but honestly, the story sounds more like a fun ghost story Miller got published in the local paper, given how there's literally no secondhand stories from other people or physical evidence of any kind at all. Well, that covers all the A states and brings the first video of the series to a close. I had a wonderful time reading and researching about all of these cryptids, and I can't wait to learn about more of them. I plan on covering all 50 states, of course, and hope you'd like to join me on this learning journey. So, if you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. I'd also love to hear which cryptid out of these was your favorite, so drop a comment below and let me know. Bye!